Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepless Scientist, a quiet place in the cosmos where your thoughts can unwind and knowledge becomes a soft lullaby for the night. Tonight's journey will take us into the strange, shimmering partnership between time and light. These two quiet rulers of reality are more than physical forces. They are the very stage upon which existence unfolds. But before you settle in and get cozy, I'd love if you could take a moment to like this video and subscribe, only if you truly find these quiet explorations enjoyable. And when you're ready, leave a comment to let me know where in the world you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. It's always such a joy to see all the places we gather from, each in our own little slice of time. Now, feel free to dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for a soft background hum, and let's gently begin our journey into the perception of time and how light quietly shapes the reality you live in. And if your mind begins to wander, that's perfectly fine. Let it drift. We'll still be here, quietly unfolding the story. Imagine lying in bed, eyes closed, listening to the slow rhythm of your breath. Around you, the room feels still, but if you were to open your eyes, you'd notice faint shapes, shadows, the small glimmer of a clock or a phone screen. Light is always present, even in its near absence, and with that light comes a whisper of time, because every flicker, every glint, every shadow stretching across the wall carries with it a message from the past. You never truly see the present. You see light as it arrives, delayed, transformed, bent ever so slightly by the universe. We tend to think of time as something absolute, ticking away on clocks and calendars, as dependable as the sun rising each morning. Yet time is far less obedient than we imagine. For most of human history, we measured time by light itself, sundials casting moving shadows, the stars drifting across the night sky, the waxing and waning of the moon. Time and light were inseparable companions long before physicists gave them equations. Even today, our most precise clocks are not made of gears or springs, but of light, atoms humming with photons like the universe's smallest violins. But before we get to those marvels, let's slow down and ease ourselves into the thought: what is time when you strip away the numbers? It is change. It is the difference between what was and what is. You notice it in the way your tea cools, in the fading glow of sunset, in the way a shadow crawls across the pavement as the afternoon lengthens. Light is the messenger of that change. Without it, everything might still occur, but nothing would be revealed. A world without light would be a world without the perception of time. Think of a traffic light at a city corner. You stand there, waiting, watching the red glow. It feels endless, as though time itself has thickened into syrup. Then, suddenly, the light shifts to green, and the world moves again. Cars roll forward, footsteps quicken, conversations pick up. That little flicker of colour was more than a signal for traffic. It was a reminder that light punctuates our experience of time, giving it texture and rhythm. Scientists often speak of the speed of light as if it were a number etched into the bones of reality, 292 kilometers per second. But to most of us, it is less about numbers and more about the way light sets the pace of our perception. Lightning splits the sky in silence, and then seconds later the thunder follows. The gap tells us distance. The flash tells us the moment has happened. Light is always first, the herald of reality, while everything else stumbles after. Even in your body, light is a clock. The rising sun resets your circadian rhythm, nudging your cells into a new day. The fading of evening light signals to your brain that sleep should soon follow. When people live without sunlight, say in long polar winters or in experiments deep underground, they lose their rhythm. Days stretch strangely. Hours feel misplaced. Time itself unravels without anchor of light. And yet, light is deceptive. It does not show you the present, but the past. Look at the person sitting across the room. The image you see of them is already old, a few billionths of a second out of date. For distant stars, the delay stretches into centuries, millennia, or billions of years. The twinkle above you might already be gone, its source extinguished long before you were born. To gaze at the night sky is to look into a time machine made of light. This means that your perception of reality, the shape of your surroundings, the colours you see, even the face of someone you love, is stitched together from light that has travelled, however briefly, to reach you. Time and light do not simply run side by side. They weave together, inseparable. Light tells you that something has happened. Time tells you that it is no longer happening but has already passed. And in this weaving lies something quietly profound. Your experience of now is already memory. It has slipped away before you even notice it. This might sound unsettling, but there is a gentleness in it too. Every smile, every glimmer of candlelight, every fading shadow is a gift delivered across the smallest of distances, a reminder that to perceive is always to be slightly behind, always watching echoes. So as we begin this journey, let's not rush. Instead, imagine yourself adrift in a river of light, each ripple carrying with it fragments of time. Some ripples are quick, like the flick of a candle flame. Others are vast, like the glow of ancient stars. Together they create the stream we call reality. And you, floating, watching, perceiving, are both part of the river and the witness to its flow. Time is something you live with so constantly that it's easy to forget how strange it really is. You measure your day with it. Wake up at 7, work until 5, maybe count the minutes until dinner is ready. But if you step back, the way we think about time is mostly a matter of rhythm and habit. Deep down, time is less like a row of ticking clocks and more like a river. It flows, it curves, sometimes rushing, sometimes drifting so slowly you hardly notice movement at all. Think of a lazy summer afternoon. The air heavy with warmth, sunlight slanting across the room. Minutes seem to stretch. An hour can feel like an endless horizon. Now compare it to a frantic morning when you oversleep, rush for the bus and scramble through tasks one after another. Suddenly those same 60 minutes collapse into what feels like the blink of an eye. Time, the supposed constant, bends according to how we live it. Long before science gave us equations, people understood time by watching light. Early humans tracked the rising and setting of the sun. Shadows grew long and then short again. The moon waxed and waned, stars wheeled across the sky. Each flicker of light was a mark on the river's surface, a reminder that life was moving forward. A sundial is nothing more than a shadow's choreography, a collaboration between time and light on a flat stone. There's something poetic in that. The universe offered us a clock, not through gears or mechanisms, but through light falling on the world. Without it, we would be lost in timelessness. Imagine a cave deep underground, where no sunlight reaches. Without a watch, without electric lamps, you would soon lose your grip on hours and days. Experiments have shown this. People isolated from daylight often sleep longer or shorter, drifting into cycles that no longer align with 24 hours. The body, left without light as a guide, invents its own rhythm. Proof that we rely on light not just to see, but to feel time. And yet, even when guided by light, time has always been a mystery. Ancient civilizations wrestled with it. The Egyptians built sundials and water clocks. The Babylonians carved celestial charts, noting how planets and stars marked recurring cycles. To them, time was not an abstraction, but something written in the heavens. You could almost say that light was humanity's first teacher, patiently marking days and seasons so that crops could be planted, rituals could be observed, and lives could be ordered. But here's the curious part. All those measurements were based on appearances, on what light seemed to tell us. They didn't yet know that light itself carries its own peculiar rules. that it would one day be discovered as the universe's ultimate speed limit, the thread that stitches together space and time. For them, the river of time seemed steady, unwavering. The sun rose, the sun set, the stars marched in their eternal patterns. Who could imagine that time might flow differently for different observers, or that the now they trusted was already slipping away? To ease into these stranger ideas, let's linger a moment longer with the image of time as a river. If you've ever sat beside one, you know that rivers are not uniform. They eddy and swirl. Some stretches run fast, tumbling over rocks, while others widen and slow until the water almost seems to stand still. The surface might glimmer with reflected sunlight, while beneath the current pulls silently forward. In much the same way, time has currents. Moments that rush, moments that stall, depending not only on how you feel, but on how the universe itself bends around you. Think of a candle burning. Its flame flickers, shadows dance on the wall, wax pools slowly at the base. You watch it melt second by second. That little flame is both light and time embodied. Light allowing you to witness, time allowing you to measure change. If the flame were hidden, if you sat in darkness, you might still sense the passage of time, but not in the same clear, anchored way. The river would feel invisible. This is why time and light are so inseparable. One gives shape to the other. Without light, time becomes abstract, unmeasured. Without time, light would be frozen, a picture with no story. Together, they create the flowing narrative of reality. Shadows moving across a wall, colours shifting at sunset, starlight travelling unimaginable distances just to arrive in your eye for a fleeting instant. And in this partnership, something else is revealed. Our perception of time is never direct. You don't feel seconds ticking. You don't sense the fabric of space-time stretching. Instead, you notice light changing, bodies moving, patterns shifting. Time is always seen through a medium, and that medium is light. As we move deeper into this journey, we'll uncover how light doesn't just show us time, it bends it, alters it, tricks it. We'll see how moving closer to the speed of light can slow clocks, how gravity can stretch moments, and how even your brain reshapes time depending on brightness and motion. But before we step into those peculiar territories, let's pause here, on the gentle bank of the river. Picture yourself sitting by that river at dusk. The water catches the last gold of the sun, the air cools, shadows lengthen. You don't need a clock to know that evening has arrived. Light has already told you, and as you watch the river drift by, you can sense what ancient people must have felt. That time, though invisible, can be seen in the way light plays upon the world. The flowing river of time is always here. Sometimes you're swept along quickly, sometimes you drift slowly, but always, the shimmer of light on its surface shows you where you are, and perhaps that is enough. If you have ever watched children playing tag, you know there's always one rule that shapes the whole game. No one can run faster than their legs will allow. Some stumble, some sprint, but there is always a limit. In the universe, that limit is set not by legs or lungs, but by light. Light is the fastest runner in existence, and nothing, no thought, no signal, no particle, can move more quickly. We often hear the number 292 kilometers per second, a figure so immense that it's hard to picture. You might try to imagine it, a beam of light circling Earth more than 7 times in a single second. But even then, the reality slips past imagination. Numbers this large don't settle easily into the mind. What matters more is what the number means. It means there is a ceiling to speed, a cosmic speedometer that every object, every signal, and every heartbeat must obey. This might sound abstract, but the consequences shape everything you know. Imagine if there were no limit. A shout could reach the stars instantly. A message could cross the galaxy in a heartbeat. Time itself would lose its rhythm, because cause and effect could happen all at once, tangled beyond recognition. Instead, the speed of light slows the universe into something orderly. Actions ripple outward at a steady pace, allowing the story of the cosmos to unfold one chapter at a time. Think of lightning in a summer storm. The flash splits the sky, and then you wait for the roll of thunder. The gap between them is distance translated into time. Light outruns sound, arriving first, telling you what happened before the thunder arrives to confirm it. In this way, light doesn't just illuminate the event, it measures it. It sets the pace of perception. Without light's speed to guide you, everything would collapse into confusion, a jumble with no order. There's a gentle irony here. The fastest thing in the universe is also what makes slowness possible. Because light has a fixed speed, it takes time to travel. And because it takes time, you never see things exactly as they are. You see them as they were. A friend across the room, the moon above you, the star on the far edge of the sky. All are filtered through light's journey. The speed that sets the ultimate limit is also the reason you can speak of the past and the present at all. Scientists sometimes call the speed of light c, a simple symbol for something profoundly strange. What makes it even stranger is that light always travels at that speed no matter where you are or how you move. If you run toward a beam of light, it doesn't rush to meet you faster. If you run away, it doesn't slow down to catch you. It remains constant, as if the universe itself insists on a universal standard. This constancy is what forced Einstein, more than a century ago, to rethink the way time and space must work. If light never changes its speed, then it must be time and space that bend instead. Try to picture two people standing far apart watching fireworks. To one, the bursts seem to occur simultaneously. To the other, a little farther away, they might appear staggered, the first slightly, before the second. Both are correct, because both are bound by the speed at which light brings them the message. Simultaneity, something we tend to assume is absolute, dissolves into perspective. The now becomes different for each observer, as if time itself flexes depending on where you stand. It can be unsettling to think that reality doesn't offer a single universal present, but perhaps it helps to think of music. Imagine an orchestra spread across a vast hall. The sound of the violins reaches you first. The cellos arrive a fraction later. Someone on the other side of the hall hears them in the opposite order. No one is wrong. Each person hears the same performance shaped by distance and delay. Light does the same with time, turning the universe into a symphony where every listener experiences a slightly different rhythm. This is why physicists sometimes say that light is the universe's metronome. It ticks at the same pace everywhere, and all of spacetime must adjust its dance to keep in step. We rarely notice this in daily life. You flip a switch, and the room lights up instantly. You glance at the moon, and it feels present, not delayed by the 1.3 seconds its light spent travelling to you. But at larger scales, the constancy of light speed creates the very structure of the cosmos. Galaxies billions of light years away are visible not because they are there now, but because light has spent eons racing toward you, carrying with it a frozen picture of their past. When you next watch the sun setting, think of this. The light that warms your face has been travelling for 8 minutes across space. If the sun were to vanish in that instant, you would still see it, still feel its warmth. For those 8 minutes more, the universe always offers you a past dressed as a present, because light is swift but never instantaneous. So light is not just brightness. It is not only what lets you see. It is the ruler, the stopwatch, the universal speedometer. It tells every particle and every event, this far, no farther. Faster than me, nothing goes. And in setting that limit, it allows reality to have order, cause to follow effect, moments to unfold one after another like beads on a string. It is strange to think that without this speed limit, there might be no story at all, only chaos, everything happening everywhere, all at once. Instead, The universe chose patience. It chose a rhythm. It chose light to carry its messages, not too fast, not too slow, but at just the right pace to let you live inside the unfolding tale of time. Imagine spreading out a soft blanket across your bed. It looks smooth, quiet, unbroken. Now place a book in the middle. The blanket dips. A marble placed nearby will roll toward the book, not because the book pulls it directly, but because the fabric itself curves around it. This is the image Albert Einstein offered when he suggested that gravity is not a mysterious invisible tug, but a bending of space and time themselves. Space and time, two words we usually keep separate, are in fact stitched together into what we call spacetime, and light, moving through it at its steady pace, is like a traveller tracing the curves of that invisible fabric. It doesn't decide to bend, it simply follows the path the fabric offers. Just as a marble on the blanket doesn't choose its direction, light too glides along the contours carved by stars, planets and galaxies. This idea was radical when Einstein introduced it in 1915. Up until then, Isaac Newton's view had guided us for centuries, that gravity was a force pulling objects together, predictable and neat. It worked beautifully for apples falling from trees and moons circling planets. But it struggled at the edges, where speeds approached that of light, or where masses grew immense like stars collapsing into black holes. Einstein's vision replaced the pull of gravity with the gentle image of geometry. Mass tells space-time how to curve, and space-time tells objects how to move. You don't need a chalkboard of equations to sense this. You can feel it in small ways. When you stand, gravity holds you against the Earth. Yes, but another way to say it is that you are simply following the curve of space-time created by our planet. When light from the sun bends slightly as it grazes past during an eclipse, it is obeying the same rule. The path is curved because the fabric is curved. It is a quiet revelation. The stage on which the universe performs is not fixed but flexible. And the speed of light is what ties it all together. Because light is constant, it becomes the yardstick by which space-time stretches or shrinks. If light slowed or sped up, the entire geometry of reality would dissolve into contradiction. Instead, light holds steady, and time and space adjust themselves to keep the story consistent. You can picture this constancy by thinking of an orchestra again. The conductor taps a steady beat. No matter where you sit in the hall, the tempo does not change. The musicians, whether violins or drums, must adjust to stay in rhythm. In the same way, all of space and time must adjust to the beat of light's unchanging speed. It is less like a law written in stone and more like music that every part of the cosmos instinctively follows. One of the most surprising consequences of this is the relativity of simultaneity. It sounds intimidating, but it is simply the recognition that now is not the same everywhere. Imagine two fireworks exploding at opposite ends of a field. If you stand in the middle, you see them ignite together. If you stand closer to one side, the nearer flash reaches you first, and the second comes a breath later. To you, the two are not simultaneous. To someone else, they might have been. There is no single answer, because light's travel time reshapes each observer's reality. This is more than an optical trick. It is a statement about the fabric of space-time itself. The universe doesn't grant a universal present. Instead, it allows countless presents, each braided together by the finite speed of light. We tend to live as if time is absolute, shared equally by all. But physics whispers that this is only an approximation, a convenience for everyday life. Underneath, time is local, woven differently for each perspective. Think of a train station. On the platform, a clock ticks steadily. Inside a speeding train, another clock ticks just as faithfully. Yet the two clocks do not agree, because the train's motion stretches the rhythm of time relative to the platform. Neither clock is broken. Both are true, each from its own vantage point. Light enforces this rule by refusing to let anyone outpace it. Instead of letting the train's passengers see light rushing faster or slower, it forces time itself to flex, keeping the tempo aligned. In a way, this might feel unsettling. Where is the solid ground if even time bends? But perhaps it is more comforting than it seems. The bending is not chaos, it is harmony. Everything adjusts just enough to keep the universe consistent. Light is like a quiet guardian of coherence, ensuring that while perspectives differ, they never fall apart into contradiction, and you, lying in bed, are part of that same fabric. The gravity you feel is space-time curving under you. That light entering your eyes is following the straightest path it can through a universe that is always flexing. Every perception you have, every moment you call now, is shaped by this invisible geometry. When you look at the stars, remember, you're not simply gazing outward into space. You're tracing the folds and curves of space-time itself, guided by light that has spent years, centuries, or even eons carrying its message. Each glimmer is a reminder that the cosmos is not rigid but soft, bending and weaving under the weight of its own contents. And through it all, light remains constant, the universal speedometer by which the fabric stretches. So, next time you place a book on a blanket and watch it dip, think of the Earth bending space-time under your feet. Think of the sun cradling the planets not by pulling them, but by curving the very stage they dance upon. Think of light gliding across those curves, patient and steady, never rushing, never slowing, always keeping the rhythm. That is the quiet wonder of space-time's fabric. Think for a moment about rules. Most of the time, rules feel restrictive. They tell you what you can't do, what boundary you cannot cross. But sometimes, a rule is what makes the game possible in the first place. Imagine soccer without the rule that the ball must stay within the field. Or chess, without the rule of how each piece moves. Without limits, there is no pattern, no meaning. The rule is what allows the play to unfold. The speed of light is one such rule. At first glance, it might seem like a stubborn refusal by the universe. No matter how hard you try, you cannot send a message faster than light, cannot outrun its beams, cannot peek beyond its horizon. But this limit is not an obstacle. It is the scaffolding that allows the story of the cosmos to have order. It is what makes cause and effect possible, what lets events line up instead of tumbling into chaos. If you've ever watched dominoes fall, you know the pleasure of seeing one topple another, each movement leading neatly to the next. Now, imagine all the dominoes falling at once with no sequence, no before and after. The beauty would vanish. Light's limit prevents that collapse. It enforces sequence. It makes sure the universe plays its game one piece at a time. This is why physicists say nothing can travel faster than light. It's not simply because we haven't figured out how. It's because the structure of time itself depends on this ceiling. If one thing could outrun light, it could deliver a message before the cause had even occurred. You could hear the thunder before seeing the lightning, or receive a letter before it was written. The river of time would loop back on itself, erasing the difference between future and past. The rule exists to keep such paradoxes from unravelling reality. You can see hints of this order in everyday life. Think of how traffic lights guide the flow of cars. If they all turned green at once, at every intersection, chaos would erupt. Instead, the lights pulse in sequence, each one slightly delayed, shaping the rhythm of the city. Light does the same for the universe, not by choice, but by its unchanging speed. It ensures that information arrives in order, that the future doesn't arrive ahead of the past, that the story makes sense. Of course, for most of us, the speed of light feels infinite. You flip a switch and the room brightens instantly. You wave to a friend across the street and they wave back without noticeable delay. But remember, the only reason you don't notice the lag is because light is so astonishingly fast at human scales. Stretch the distances to space, and suddenly the delays become profound. Talking to an astronaut on the moon introduces a pause of about 2.5 seconds. Chatting with a probe near Mars can mean minutes of silence between question and reply. If you could somehow call a spacecraft near Pluto, you would wait nearly 5 hours for your words to arrive. The universe insists on patience. Astronomers live within this patience daily. Every telescope image is a conversation with the past. A star that looks bright tonight may already have gone dark ages ago, its death hidden by the years it takes its light to cross the gulf of space. Even the sunlight you enjoy at noon is already history, having left the sun 8 minutes earlier. You walk in a world of echoes, and yet these echoes are what give your life continuity. Without them, there would be no story, only noise. Another consequence of this speed limit is that the universe has a visible edge. Light has been travelling since the Big Bang, and it has only had 13.8 billion years to do so. That means there is a horizon, a cosmic curtain beyond which we cannot see. Not because nothing is there, but because light hasn't yet had time to arrive. The universe may well stretch far beyond, but its story hasn't yet reached your eyes. It is as if you are sitting in the front row of a play that is still being performed, scene by scene, never all at once. And here's the gentle paradox. While light is unimaginably fast, it is also what slows time into something you can experience. Without that limit, the whole play would collapse in a single instant. Light, by refusing to move any faster, gives you the gift of duration, of sequence, of memory. It forces the cosmos to unfold like a novel, one page at a time, instead of dumping the whole book in your lap. When Einstein looked at this, he realized the consequences ran even deeper. If light must always travel at the same speed, then space and time themselves must bend to accommodate it. Clocks must tick differently depending on how they move. Distances must shrink or stretch depending on perspective. Reality itself must flex so that light remains constant. This is the quiet revolution at the heart of relativity. Not that light changes to fit our universe, but that the universe changes to fit light. Think of it like dancing with a partner who always keeps the same tempo. You might stumble, you might spin faster or slower, but your steps must adjust to match. Light is that partner. No matter what you do, its tempo is steady. And so you bend, not light. Your time bends, your space bends, your perception of reality bends. And in that bending lies the strange, beautiful truth that the universe is not rigid but alive with flexibility. So the consequence of a limit is not loss, but possibility. Light's ceiling is what makes your days unfold, your conversations coherent, your memories meaningful. It is why stars shimmer from billions of years away, rather than all blinding you in one instant. It is why you can watch a candle burn moment by moment, instead of collapsing into ash in a flash. The universe is patient because light is patient, and within that patience your life finds its rhythm. Picture a kitchen timer. You twist the dial, set it to 5 minutes, and begin stirring a pot of soup. The seconds tick by, steady and dependable. Yet depending on what you're doing, those same 5 minutes can feel entirely different. If you are waiting impatiently for the timer to buzz, each second drags. If you're distracted, the chime seems to arrive too soon. This is the everyday, human version of time's elasticity. But in the vast theatre of physics, this stretching and shrinking of time is not just a matter of perception. It is a measurable, physical truth. Einstein's theory of relativity tells us that time does not flow at the same rate for everyone. When objects move close to the speed of light, their clocks slow down compared to those at rest. This is not an illusion, not a trick of perspective. It is reality, stitched into the fabric of space-time. Physicists call it time dilation. To grasp this, imagine a pair of twins. One stays home on Earth, the other boards a spaceship and accelerates to near light speed, heading off on a long journey. To the travelling twin, everything feels normal. Her heartbeat, her breathing, Her conversations with fellow crew all seem to follow the same steady rhythm. But when she eventually returns, she finds her sibling has aged far more than she has. Days and years flow differently for each of them, not because of faulty clocks, but because motion itself bent time. This thought experiment, often called the twin paradox, may sound like science fiction, but it has been tested in subtler forms. Atomic clocks placed on high-speed airplanes or satellites tick slightly slower than identical clocks on the ground. The difference is tiny, almost imperceptible in daily life, but measurable with sensitive instruments. It's as if the universe quietly keeps two ledgers, one for the moving clock, one for the still one, and they do not balance. One of the most practical demonstrations of time dilation is happening right now above your head. The global positioning system, the GPS that guides your phone through city streets, relies on satellites orbiting Earth. These satellites carry extremely precise atomic clocks, but because they are moving quickly relative to you, and also sitting in a weaker gravitational field than at Earth's surface, their clocks tick differently. Engineers must constantly correct for both motion and gravity effects. Without these adjustments, your GPS would drift kilometers off course every single day. The directions that bring you to a cafe or guide a plane across the ocean only work because we account for the stretching and slowing of time. You can think of this slowing with a simple image. Imagine two friends trying to clap in rhythm across a large field. One walks quickly while clapping, the other stands still. From the perspective of the one at rest, the claps of the moving friend arrive slightly later, just a hair off beat. It isn't because either is clumsy, it's because the path of sound stretches when motion intervenes. With light and time, the effect is even stronger. The faster you move, the more the beat of your clock lags behind. What is most striking is that no one feels the difference while it is happening. The twin aboard the spaceship does not sense her time slowing. She eats breakfast, writes in a journal, laughs at jokes, all at what feels like a perfectly normal pace. But upon returning, she discovers that what she called normal unfolded within a smaller slice of the cosmic story. Her now stretched differently from her siblings' now. This is where everyday experience can help. Think of a movie shown in slow motion. To the actors, everything felt natural when filmed, but when played back, the leaps, the gestures, the smallest expressions take longer, stretched into graceful arcs. In much the same way, motion at near-light speeds plays back as a slowed version of reality for those watching from outside. Perhaps the most comforting way to think of it is that the universe is generous with time. It bends and flexes, handing out slightly different experiences depending on your journey. There is no single clock dictating the rhythm for all. Instead, each traveller carries their own tempo, and light ensures the music never contradicts itself. If this seems strange, that is because we live in a world where we rarely notice the effect. Our cars, trains, even airplanes are too slow compared to the speed of light for time dilation to matter much. The differences show up in tiny decimals, not in lost years. But scale it up to cosmic voyages, and the effect blooms into something profound. A traveller moving fast enough could see centuries pass on Earth, while only experiencing a handful of years herself. For her, the future of humanity would arrive like the next act of a play. This possibility has inspired countless stories of explorers venturing to the stars, returning home to find generations gone. It is a haunting thought that leaving at great speed might mean leaving behind more than distance. Yet there is also a quiet beauty in the idea. Time is not absolute. It is flexible, alive, shaped by motion. And because of that, the universe holds countless possible journeys, each with its own rhythm. So, when you next set a timer or glance at a clock, remember that its tick is not universal. It belongs to you, here, in this place, moving at this speed. A clock on a plane, on a satellite, or on a ship racing between stars will tick differently. Time is not a single river flowing the same for all, but many streams converging and parting, woven together by the constancy of light. And perhaps the greatest wonder is this: in all these variations, light remains steady, the cosmic referee ensuring that no matter how the streams twist, they still belong to the same great river. Imagine standing on a hillside watching a river flow below. From where you stand, the water seems to move quickly, rushing between rocks and trees. But walk down to the river's edge, and suddenly the current feels different, slower, heavier, dragging at your feet. Time behaves in much the same way. It flows differently depending on where you stand in the gravitational landscape of the universe. Einstein's general theory of relativity revealed this subtle truth. Where gravity is stronger, time slows down. Not metaphorically, not just in how it feels, but literally. A clock deep in a valley ticks more slowly than a clock at the top of a mountain. The difference is almost impossible to sense in everyday life. But with precise instruments it becomes clear. Gravity does not only bend space, it bends time. One of the simplest ways to picture this is to return to the idea of spacetime as a fabric. Place a heavy ball on the fabric, and the cloth dips. That dip is gravity. Now imagine little ripples moving across the fabric like waves. Near the dip, the ripples stretch and slow, pulled into the curve. Farther away, they travel more freely. In much the same way, time itself stretches and slows near massive objects. Even your own body is part of this dance. Because your feet are closer to the centre of Earth than your head, they experience slightly stronger gravity. As a result, your feet age more slowly than your face. The difference is unimaginably small, fractions of a nanosecond each year, but real nonetheless. If you could live for billions of years, the gap would become noticeable. Your body is quite literally a gradient of time. It may sound unsettling that time runs differently just centimetres apart, but think of it as a kind of cosmic tenderness. The universe does not demand uniformity. It allows small differences, tiny personal tempos depending on where you stand. Time is generous, giving each of us our own rhythm, all woven together into a greater whole. Astronauts have carried clocks into orbit to measure these effects. Satellites circling Earth sit farther from our planet's centre, experiencing weaker gravity. Their clocks tick slightly faster than those on the ground, but because they are also moving quickly, time dilation from motion slows them down. The two effects tug against each other, motion pulling one way, gravity pulling the other. Engineers must balance them carefully for systems like GPS to work. Without accounting for this, a simple walk guided by your phone might lead you wildly astray. This bending of time becomes most dramatic near extremely massive objects like black holes. There, gravity is so intense that time for an observer near the edge slows almost to a stop relative to those far away. To someone falling toward a black hole, moments feel ordinary. They breathe, they blink, they think. But to a distant observer, their motions stretch into near eternity. Frozen on the brink, it is as if gravity takes the flowing river of time and pours it into a deep pool, where the current slows and swirls without end. You don't need a black hole to appreciate the effect. Think of how you feel after climbing a long staircase. At the top, the view stretches wide, the air feels lighter, and even your mood might lift. In a quiet, subtle way, time itself is flowing just a little faster for you than for those below. Not enough to notice, not enough to matter in daily life, but enough to remind us that the ground beneath our feet is not just a place, it is a position in time's landscape. Philosophers once thought of time as absolute, flowing steadily for all, indifferent to where you were or what you were doing. Einstein's insight shattered that certainty. Instead, he revealed a world in which time is personal, local, pliable. The seconds of your life are not the same as the seconds of someone high in the mountains, or circling Earth in a satellite, or drifting close to a star. Each of us moves through our own strand of time, shaped by motion and by gravity. Yet all strands remain part of the same woven fabric. Perhaps it helps to imagine an old grandfather clock with two pendulums swinging side by side. If one pendulum is weighted differently, its swing is slower, more deliberate. The other moves quickly, lightly. Yet both are clocks, both telling their version of the hour. Gravity's effect on time is something like this. Each location in the universe is its own pendulum, ticking at its own pace. Together they create the grand clockwork of space-time, not perfectly synchronized, but beautifully orchestrated. It's easy to get lost in the numbers and equations when thinking about relativity, but at its heart is a simple, almost poetic message. Time is not rigid. It bends and sways with the mass of the world around it. Every step you take, every mountain you climb, every orbit traced by a planet or star, reshapes the flow of seconds in subtle ways. The cosmos is not governed by one great drumbeat, but by a symphony of rhythms, each shaped by gravity's hand. So, the next time you climb a hill or look up at the night sky, remember that you're not just moving in space, you're also shifting ever so slightly in time. Your heart beats in a rhythm bent by the Earth's mass. Your thoughts ripple through a mind stretched across a curved fabric. You live in a universe where even gravity does not only pull, it plays with the tempo of existence, slowing and stretching moments like a musician lingering lovingly on a note. And perhaps that is a comforting thought. Time is not a rigid tyrant, but a dancer, swaying slowly in gravity's embrace, and you, without even noticing, are moving with that dance. Imagine waking up not to a sunrise, but to 16 of them in a single day. That is the rhythm of life aboard the International Space Station. Orbiting Earth every 90 minutes, astronauts witness dawn and dusk over and over, the light of the sun constantly rising and falling across their windows. For them, time is not divided neatly into mornings and evenings, but into cycles of perpetual motion, each pass reminding them that their orbit is not only around the planet, but also through time itself. From the ground, a day feels steady. The sun arcs across the sky once, and darkness follows. But in orbit, the rules shift. Light becomes restless, flooding the cabin with gold, then withdrawing into shadow again and again. Astronauts mark their schedules by clocks, not by the natural dance of light, because otherwise their bodies would lose all sense of rhythm. Light is still their timekeeper, but it is a more demanding one, insisting on a new tempo, a new dance. This unusual cycle brings with it more than just disrupted sleep. Orbiting so quickly means astronauts are moving at nearly 28,000 kilometers per hour. At such speeds, Einstein's special relativity whispers into their lives. Their clocks, if compared carefully to identical ones on Earth, tick a little more slowly. It's a tiny difference, mere fractions of a second over months, but measurable. Time itself stretches as they glide around the planet. At the same time, these astronauts are farther from Earth's centre, where gravity is slightly weaker. General relativity predicts that clocks in weaker gravity run faster, so two opposite effects play tug-of-war in orbit. Motion slows their time, weaker gravity speeds it up. Engineers must calculate both when designing navigation systems and communication. Without those corrections, a spacecraft's position could drift wildly, as if guided by a faulty compass. For the astronauts themselves, these effects remain invisible. Their watches tick steadily, their heartbeats maintain their rhythm, their conversations unfold without delay. Yet compared to friends and family back on Earth, their time is ever so slightly different. They are living in a world where physics bends the rules, even if the bends are gentle. If you've ever experienced jet lag, you know a small taste of this strangeness. Flying across time zones, your body insists it is midnight, while the city outside says it is noon. Your circadian rhythm lags behind the world around you. astronauts experience something similar, not only from the relentless cycle of light and dark, but also from the physiological quirks of microgravity. Their bodies no longer feel the tug of Earth's pull. Fluids shift upward, faces puff slightly, spines lengthen. Even their sense of up and down becomes confused, as though the inner compass that anchors them in time and space has gone quiet. You might picture them floating weightlessly, chasing globes of water or letting pens drift through the cabin. But behind these playful images lies the truth that their perception of reality has changed. With no steady downward pull, their bodies lose the subtle cues that define rhythm. Sleep can feel irregular. Days blur into nights. Astronauts often speak of gazing at Earth through the station's observation dome, watching storms flash across continents, cities glow in the dark, sunrises unfurl like ribbons. It is beautiful but also surreal, a constant reminder that their sense of time is no longer bound to one rotation of the Earth, but to the endless loop of their orbit. And here is where light plays its quiet trick again. The cycles of sunrise and sunset do not only reset their body clocks, they also remind them that what they see is always delayed. The sunlight that spills through their windows left the sun 8 minutes earlier. The lightning that crackles over South America is already in the past when it reaches their eyes. Astronauts, like all of us, live not in the present, but in a stream of echoes, each delivered by light. Perhaps the most striking thought is this: an astronaut orbiting Earth for 6 months experiences a slightly shorter span of time than those waiting at home. It's not dramatic, not a leap of years like the twin paradox, but it is real. They return younger by microseconds. To us that difference is imperceptible, but it is a reminder that time is not universal. Even a short journey above the atmosphere shows that each path through the cosmos carries its own unique tempo. Think of it like listening to a familiar song played on different instruments. The melody is the same, but the tone shifts. On Earth, time is a steady drumbeat. In orbit, it becomes a string instrument, bending slightly under the player's hand, vibrating with a different timbre. Neither is wrong, both are music. The universe simply offers many variations of the same tune. Back on Earth, we live as if our time is the only kind, but astronauts know differently. They have lived where sunrises come in floods, where clocks must be corrected for the bending of space and the speed of motion, where bodies float untethered from gravity's cues. They return not only with photographs and experiments, but with a lived reminder that time is not absolute. It is flexible, curved, deeply entangled with light. So the next time you glance at the sky, imagine those travellers orbiting above you, living through their own rhythm of days and nights, drifting in a capsule where light never lets them forget how relative time can be. They are not far away, just a few hundred kilometres above, and yet their seconds are already diverging from yours. That is the quiet wonder of relativity brought down to human scale. We all move through time, but never quite at the same pace. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a giant clock hanging in the sky, its hands sweeping steadily, its ticks echoing across the cosmos. It's a comforting picture, the idea that somewhere there exists a universal time, shared by everyone and everything, binding all of us into one grand schedule. But the truth, whispered quietly by physics, is that such a clock does not exist. The universe does not keep a single rhythm. It refuses uniform time. Einstein's insights revealed that each observer carries their own clock, their own now. Your seconds are not the same as those of an astronaut in orbit, or of a star circling near a black hole, or even of your own feet compared to your head. Time is woven into the fabric of space, and because that fabric bends and flexes differently in different places, so too does the pace of time. At first, this might feel disorienting. If there is no universal now, then what is the present? How can we speak of a shared moment if every location and every motion shapes time differently? Yet perhaps the problem lies not with the universe, but with our expectations. We crave certainty, a clean line dividing past from future. But the cosmos offers something softer, something more fluid. The present is not a single point, but a patchwork quilt, each square stitched from the perspective of whoever is observing. Think of a family scattered across the world. One sibling sits down for breakfast while another prepares for sleep. Their clocks disagree, their nows misaligned. Yet both are true, both are real, and the family bond remains. The universe works in much the same way, except the differences are not only about geography and time zones, they're built into spacetime itself. Each observer's present is genuine, even if it doesn't match anyone else's. This becomes especially vivid when you remember that light takes time to travel. Look at the person sitting across from you. The smile you see has already happened, however minutely, by the time light carried it to your eyes. Stretch this to the stars, and the illusion grows immense. The glow of a galaxy a billion light years away is not its current state, but its ancient portrait. In a way, the night sky is less a window to the present and more a museum of light, each star and cluster displaying an exhibit from its own epoch. When you think of it like this, the absence of a universal now begins to feel less like a loss and more like a gift. Every perspective is a fragment of the whole, every observer carrying their own piece of the cosmic mosaic. Together, these countless shifting nows form the universe's true present, not uniform but richly varied. There is also a kind of intimacy hidden in this relativity. Consider a conversation on a video call. Each person speaks and listens with a slight delay, fractions of a second out of step. And yet the dialogue flows, meaning emerges, laughter is shared. The lag does not destroy connection, it becomes part of it. Likewise, the delays and differences in cosmic time do not break the universe's harmony. They are the texture of that harmony. Perhaps that is why the idea of a universal clock feels so alluring. It promises order, simplicity. But order can also be found in variation. A choir does not sing in unison alone. It thrives in harmony, with each voice slightly different, blending into something larger than itself. Time is the same. Each clock, each rhythm contributes to the grander song of the cosmos. To live in such a universe is to accept that the present is always provisional, always filtered through light's delay. What you call now is already a memory. What you call here is already shaped by perspective. Far from being unsettling, this recognition can be quietly liberating. It means that your experience of time is uniquely yours. No one else shares your exact now. It belongs only to you, as personal as a heartbeat, as intimate as breath. And yet, despite this individuality, we find ways to connect. Our clocks synchronize enough to allow trains to run, conversations to happen, meals to be shared. In the same way, the universe's countless nows overlap just enough to weave a coherent story. Galaxies cluster, stars orbit, planets spin, all following their local rhythms, yet bound together into one vast unfolding whole. So perhaps it is not that the universe refuses uniform time, but that it prefers diversity. It invites each corner of space-time to keep its own beat, trusting that the result will still be music. The illusion of a single present may be gone, but in its place we discover something richer, a chorus of presence, overlapping and intertwining, none more real than another. As you lie there listening, remember that your moment, this breath, this thought, is a note in that chorus. It is fleeting, yes, already dissolving into memory, but it is also irreplaceable. Your now cannot be duplicated, because it belongs to your vantage, your journey, your patch of space-time, and that is enough. The river of time does not have one channel, but many. Each current flows differently, shaped by motion, by gravity, by light's delay. And yet, together, they create a single riverbed, a single cosmic journey. In that sense, there is a shared time after all. Not the rigid tick of a universal clock, but the gentle weave of countless threads stitched together into the fabric of reality. Have you ever looked at a photograph and felt the tug of nostalgia, realizing that what you're seeing is not the present moment, but a fragment preserved from the past? What may surprise you is that this is not only true of photographs, it is true of everything you see, always. Every glance, every spark of light reaching your eyes is a message delayed, carrying news that is already old by the time you receive it. The reason lies in the finite speed of light. It feels instantaneous, but it never truly is. Even across the smallest of spaces there is a delay, however tiny. Look at a friend sitting across the room. The smile on their face belongs to a moment a few billionths of a second ago. That gap is far too small to feel, but it is real. You live quite literally in a world of echoes. Stretch the distance, and the delays grow dramatic. The moon's glow is light that left it a little more than a second ago. The warmth of the sun is already 8 minutes old by the time it brushes your skin, and the stars that crowd the night sky, those are far older still. Some of their light began its journey before humans ever walked the earth. Some of it left its home before the earth itself had formed. To look up at the Milky Way is to peer into history, each star a time capsule glowing with messages from long ago. There is a gentle irony here. We talk about living in the present, but in truth we never do. The present, as we perceive it, is always a reconstruction of the past. Light carries the information of what happened. Your eyes and brain assemble it into the story you call now. But by the time that story is complete, the moment itself has already slipped away. This doesn't mean the present is meaningless. On the contrary, it makes it more precious. Every perception is a gift from the past, arriving just in time for you to weave it into your life. Think of it like listening to music in a vast hall. The note you hear is not the one just played, but the one already echoing through the air. And yet it is beautiful, perhaps even more so because of the delay. Astronomers live by this truth every day. Their telescopes are not windows to what is, but to what was. When they speak of galaxies billions of light years away, they are really speaking of galaxies billions of years ago. They watch stars being born, but those births may already have ended, their cradles long gone. They see supernovae explode, but those explosions may now be cold embers. The universe reveals itself only in hindsight, and yet this limitation is also a kind of gift. Because light takes time to travel, we can look back in time. We can reconstruct cosmic history, watching the afterglow of the Big Bang, tracing the life cycles of stars, glimpsing the young universe when galaxies first formed. Without the delay, there would be no cosmic story, no record of the past written across the sky. The very slowness of light is what allows us to know that there was a past at all. Even in your everyday life, you can notice hints of this. Think of lightning in a storm. The flash comes first, then the thunder. You count the seconds, knowing that sound lags behind. But light too lags, only so little that we do not sense it. Or think of watching a live broadcast from the other side of the world. The words and images seem immediate, yet they have travelled through cables and satellites, always arriving fractions of a second late. In a way, all communication is like this. Every conversation, every glance, every touch is stitched together from signals delayed by light. The delays may be imperceptible, but they remind us that no two beings ever share the exact same instant. Each person's now is offset by distance, by the time light takes to bridge the gap. This truth could feel isolating, that we're all living in slightly different times, never quite synchronized. But it can also feel quietly beautiful. It means the world around you is always gifting you echoes. Every star, every lamp, every smile is sending you a little piece of the past to hold. You do not live in emptiness, but in a continuous stream of offerings from what has just been. Perhaps that is why moments feel so fragile. a child's laugh, the glimmer of candlelight, the shimmer of a raindrop on glass. They vanish even as you perceive them. But the fact that you perceive them at all is a miracle of timing, light arriving just quickly enough for your mind to catch it before it fades. Your present is a tapestry woven from past threads, and yet it feels whole, immediate, real. So when you look at the stars tonight, remember, you are not only looking outward, you are looking backward. You are standing at the edge of countless stories, each light a messenger from a different chapter of the universe. And when you look across a room at someone you love, remember too, even their presence is a gift of the past, their image carried to you on light that has already travelled, however briefly. We speak of now as if it were solid, but it is not. It is an illusion crafted from light's delay, and yet, what an illusion it is, rich, vibrant, and endlessly renewing. If anything, its fragility makes it more meaningful. Every now you experience is already gone, but also, wonderfully, it is yours. When you clap your hands together, you feel the sharp contact, you hear the sound, you see the movement. To you, it all seems simultaneous, part of a single instant. But hidden in the background is a secret. Your brain is always running slightly behind. Every sensation, every sight and sound and touch is processed with a delay of tens of milliseconds. What you call the present is already the past by the time your mind assembles it. Neuroscientists have studied this with remarkable care. When light strikes your eyes, it takes roughly 80 to 100 milliseconds for the signal to travel through your optic nerve, reach your brain, and be stitched into a coherent image. A tenth of a second may seem tiny, but consider this. In that fraction of time, a hummingbird can beat its wings more than a dozen times. A sprinter can move the length of a footstep. Life is happening while your brain is still buffering. It's a bit like watching a live stream with a slight delay. The words and images feel immediate, but in truth, they're already history by the time they reach you. Your perception works the same way. You never see reality as it unfolds. You see a reconstruction, assembled and smoothed over so that it feels seamless. This might sound disconcerting at first, as though you are forever playing catch-up. But think of how skillfully your brain manages this lag. It aligns signals from eyes, ears and skin so well that you rarely notice the differences. Sound travels slower than light, yet when someone speaks across the room, your brain knits the moving lips and the words together into a single moment. You live inside a carefully curated illusion of simultaneity. Crafted so gently, you seldom realize it's there. Everyday life offers little clues to this hidden delay. Picture catching a ball. By the time the ball's image reaches your brain, it is already slightly farther along its path. Yet you move your hand to intercept it, often with uncanny accuracy. How? Your brain doesn't just react, it predicts. It guesses where the ball will be, compensating for the lag. You're not living in the raw present, but in a simulation your mind has built, always a step behind, always leaning forward into expectation. Or consider watching a movie. Film projectors show you still images in quick succession, each separated by fractions of a second. Your brain smooths them together into continuous motion, erasing the gaps. The truth, the individual frames, flickers beneath your perception. What you experience is the illusion your brain constructs. Time itself feels continuous because your mind edits it that way. Even sound carries its own delays. When you strike a piano key, the vibrations travel through the air before they reach your ear. Your brain blends this input with the sight of the key moving, timing them so they seem to coincide. If the gap is too large, as in an echoing canyon, the illusion breaks and you become aware of the delay. But most of the time you live inside the illusion of a perfectly synchronized present, unaware of the careful stitching happening behind the curtain. This raises a curious philosophical point. If your brain takes time to process reality, then your experience of now is not a direct window onto the world, but a memory. Your present is a collage of moments already gone, polished into coherence by your nervous system. In that sense, you're always living in the past, only by a sliver, but enough to remind us that time is never quite what it seems. And yet, there is something strangely comforting in this. The brain's delay is not a flaw. It is a feature, a gentle buffer that allows you to live smoothly in a world where signals arrive at different speeds. Without it, you would be constantly aware of mismatches, hearing words out of sync with lips, seeing movement that doesn't line up with touch. The delay allows your perception to be a unified experience. It trades accuracy for harmony, and in doing so, creates the reality you know. Think of a conductor leading an orchestra. The musicians sit at different distances. The sound of a violin near the front reaches you slightly sooner than the timpani at the back. If you listened with strict precision, the music would seem ragged. But your brain unconsciously aligns it, stretching and compressing perception so that all the notes fall together. You don't hear a messy scattering of sounds, you hear a symphony. The processing lag is the conductor, keeping everything in time. What does this mean for our sense of time itself? It suggests that even our most intimate experience, the awareness of now, is already shaped, edited, and delayed. We live not in raw reality, but in a version our minds prepare for us. And perhaps that is why moments feel so fleeting, why we often say time slips away before we can hold it. By the time we recognize a moment, it has already passed. But maybe that is not a loss. Maybe it is what gives each instant its sweetness. Life is a gallery of echoes, each one arriving just late enough to remind us of its fragility. The laugh you hear, the light that dazzles your eye, the warmth you feel, all of it is a memory disguised as the present. And yet, in the disguise, it becomes real to you. So the next time you clap your hands, pause for a moment. Realize that the sound, the sight, the feeling are already behind you, woven into a seamless experience by your brain. Your present is not a fixed point but a delicate mirage, constantly renewed. It may not be immediate, but it is beautiful, and it is yours. If you've ever been on a video call, you've felt the oddness of time not quite lining up. Someone laughs a split second after your joke, or you both start speaking at once because each of you thought the pause was long enough. Even though the delay is small, you notice it. The conversation feels slightly off balance, as though the present you're sharing isn't quite the same for both of you. This is a small reflection of something much larger. There is no single universal now. Each of us lives inside a personal present, shaped by where we are, how we are moving, and how light brings us information. The now you're experiencing at this moment is yours alone. Mine is different, and so is everyone else's. At everyday scales, the differences are minuscule. A smile seen across a table is delayed by billionths of a second, far too little to matter. But physics reminds us that on larger scales, the differences grow. Astronauts orbiting Earth, satellites speeding overhead, galaxies racing away from us, all live in different tempos of time. Even your own feet and head tick at slightly different rates. The idea of a universal shared present fades into a patchwork of perspectives. Yet our minds resist this idea. We want to believe there is one grand stage where all events unfold together, one master clock marking the rhythm of reality. It is a comforting picture, that somewhere there is a real present that we all share, but light, with its finite speed, whispers otherwise. The universe does not grant us one uniform now, it grants us many. You can sense this in daily life if you look closely. Imagine two friends standing at different corners of a park watching fireworks. To one, two rockets burst at the same time. To the other, one seems to flash slightly before the other. Neither is wrong. Each is describing the present as it arrives to them, carried by light across the distance. Their nows are not identical, yet both are true. Zoom out farther, and the differences become profound. To us, the Andromeda Galaxy is still a glittering spiral, visible on a clear night as a faint smudge in the sky. But the light we see left Andromeda 2.5 million years ago. If beings in that galaxy looked back toward Earth, they would not see us as we are today, but as our distant ancestors long before human civilization. Their now and ours do not overlap. The present is not shared across such gulfs of space. What then does it mean to speak of the present? Perhaps it is better to think of it as local, stitched from the light that has managed to reach you. Your now is defined by the boundaries of information you can receive. It is not absolute but personal, like a circle of lamplight on a dark street. Inside the circle, you see clearly. Beyond it, you know the world continues, but you cannot yet perceive it. This realization can be both humbling and strangely comforting. Humbling, because it shows us that our view of reality is partial, always limited by light's delay. Comforting, because it reminds us that each person's perspective is unique. No two individuals share the same exact now, not even two people sitting side by side. Each of us inhabits a slightly different version of the world, stitched together by the signals arriving in our eyes and ears. Perhaps this is why human connection feels so precious. When you laugh with someone, when you sit together watching the sunset, your experiences are never perfectly synchronized, but they overlap enough to give the illusion of shared time. The beauty lies not in perfect alignment, but in the closeness of your two personal nows. Connection is finding harmony in those overlaps, like two musicians improvising together, not identical, but resonant. Technology sometimes makes us more aware of the differences. A live broadcast from another continent includes a small delay. A phone call routed through satellites carries a lag that leaves you speaking over one another. These glitches remind us of something physics has known all along. There is no absolute now, only messages arriving in their own time. Yet even with delays, meaning emerges. Conversations flow. Laughter still lands. Philosophers have wrestled with this for centuries. St. Augustine once said that the present has no length. It is only the border between past and future. Modern physics sharpens that idea, showing that the border is not fixed but flexible, depending on where and how you stand. The present is less a line and more a shifting window, always personal, never universal. But perhaps this makes it more meaningful, not less. To know that your now is yours alone, that it cannot be duplicated, that no one else shares your exact perspective, is to realize how unique each moment is. When you watch a candle flame flicker, when you hear a note linger in the air, when you hold someone's hand, that experience belongs only to you, in your particular place and time. It is already past by the time you know it, but it is also irreplaceable, so the next time you're on a video call and someone laughs a little late, smile at the reminder. Their present is not your present. Yet somehow, across the delays, you still connect. The universe may refuse to grant us a single now, but it offers something better. Countless personal nows, overlapping and intertwining, forming the rich, layered fabric of reality. And maybe that is enough. Picture yourself walking down a quiet street at night, guided only by the pool of light from a street lamp. Within that circle, the pavement glows, the outlines of trees are visible, the world feels tangible and near. Beyond the circle, the darkness thickens. You know the rest of the street is still there. Houses, sidewalks, maybe a stray cat moving in the shadows, but it lies outside your vision, outside what you can reach in that moment. In physics, there is a similar idea called the light cone. Imagine every event in your life as a single point. Say, you sitting here, listening to these words. From that point, light spreads outward in all directions, forming a cone into the future. Anything within that cone can, in principle, be reached by a signal you send. You might shine a flashlight, call out, or send a spaceship, but anything outside that cone is unreachable, because light, and nothing faster than light, cannot get there in time. There is also a cone stretching backward into the past. It represents all the events that could have sent signals to you, all the happenings whose light has had enough time to reach your eyes. The sun rising this morning, a supernova exploding in a distant galaxy millions of years ago, even your own heartbeat a moment ago, all are within your past light cone. But beyond it lies a vast region of the universe you cannot yet know, because its signals are still on their way, travelling patiently at light steady pace. This picture reshapes our understanding of reality. We often imagine the universe as something we can, in principle, observe in its entirety, given enough effort. But the light cone tells us otherwise. There are hard boundaries to what can be known, not because of our instruments, not because of human limitations, but because of the very structure of space-time. The cosmos hides parts of itself simply because light has not yet had the time to arrive. Think of it like being seated at a play in a vast theatre. The actors have been performing since long before you took your seat. You can see the scenes that happen on stage now, and you can remember the scenes you've already watched. But there are entire acts that happened before you entered, stories whispered in corners beyond the stage lights, moments still waiting behind the curtain. They are real, but they are outside your view. This is not just a poetic idea. It has consequences you experience every day. When you look at the stars, you are gazing into your past light cone, watching light that has journeyed across space and time to reach you. The present state of those stars, whether they have grown, dimmed or died, is not yet within your reach. You live always on the edge of what light can deliver, peering into history, waiting for tomorrow's messages. Even in smaller, everyday scales, the light cone defines what you can know. Imagine sitting in a cafe. The conversations around you, the glow of lamps, the aroma of bread, all fall within your light cone, carried to your senses quickly enough to be part of your awareness. But beyond the walls of the cafe, things are happening you cannot yet perceive. A bus rolling down the street, a child laughing in a nearby park, raindrops beginning to fall on rooftops. Those events are outside your cone until their signals, light, sound, even smell, travel to you. Your reality is always bounded, always partial. There is something humbling in this. We are never in possession of the whole picture. Our lives are lived in circles of awareness, stitched together by light and sound, expanding outward but never infinite. The universe, vast and intricate, keeps much of itself hidden, not by malice but by design. Reality is not given to us all at once, but revealed gradually, like pages turning in a book we can never skip ahead in. And yet, this limitation can also feel like a kind of grace. If you could see everything, all at once, every star, every galaxy, every distant event, the immensity might overwhelm you. Instead, light filters reality, bringing only what you can hold in each moment. The delay, the boundaries, the cones, they are not flaws but features, letting you live within a digestible slice of the cosmos. Think of how a candle illuminates a dark room. It does not flood the entire space but reveals only a corner, just enough to let you feel present, just enough to guide your steps. The light cone works in a similar way, giving you a manageable reality within the vastness, a pocket of knowable truth amid the unknowable expanse, and beyond the cone, that is the mystery. The events that lie outside your reach are still happening, still real, but hidden until light brings them close. Somewhere stars are forming, galaxies are colliding, lives are unfolding. Their stories are not yet yours, but in time some of them may be. Others will remain forever beyond, veiled by the speed of light and the expansion of space. So the next time you walk under a street lamp, pause for a moment in the glow. Notice how the world within the circle feels solid and immediate, while the darkness beyond is full of possibilities you cannot yet see. That is what it means to live in a universe of light cones. Reality is both intimate and infinite, bounded and boundless. What lies outside is not lost. It is simply waiting, moving slowly, patiently toward you. When you step outside on a bright day, you may feel as though you are seeing everything there is to see. The trees are vivid, the sky stretches in blue, sunlight glints off glass and water. It feels complete, almost overwhelming. And yet, what reaches your eyes is only a sliver of what light can offer, a narrow band in a vast spectrum of possibilities. Human vision evolved to detect wavelengths between roughly 400 and 700 nanometers, from violet to red. It is a useful range, the portion of the spectrum most abundant in sunlight, and enough to paint the world with colours. But it is far from the full story. Beyond red lies infrared, carrying heat you can feel on your skin but cannot see. Beyond violet lies ultraviolet, invisible to your eyes but powerful enough to fade fabrics and burn skin. These are the first hints that the visible rainbow is just a keyhole view into a much larger room. Everyday life is already threaded with reminders of this hidden spectrum. Point a TV remote at your eye and you'll see nothing. Yet a digital camera will reveal the infrared beam flickering with signals. That quiet dot of light, invisible to you, is what changes the channel, pauses the movie, summons music into the room. At the beach, you rub sunscreen onto your arms and face. You cannot see the ultraviolet rays it blocks, but you know they are there, invisible fingers reaching down from the sun. There is a childlike wonder in realizing how much we miss. Hold a prism up to the sunlight, and the beam splits into a rainbow. It is beautiful, but even that rainbow is incomplete. Infrared and ultraviolet spill beyond its edges, unseen yet still present. Glow-in-the-dark stickers, too, are little teachers of hidden light. They absorb energy from ultraviolet rays and then release it back slowly as a soft green glow, whispering that light comes in, forms your eyes cannot perceive directly. Science has built tools to extend our vision beyond this narrow slice. Infrared cameras reveal the warmth of bodies in the dark, painting the unseen in glowing reds and yellows. Ultraviolet filters let us glimpse the patterns on flowers that bees use as landing guides, designs invisible to us, but obvious to insects. To the bee, the world is painted with markings we can only imagine, a secret code written in ultraviolet. Go further along the spectrum and stranger worlds appear. X-rays pass through flesh but are stopped by bone, giving us images that reveal the skeleton beneath. Gamma rays, with even shorter wavelengths, carry stories from the most violent events in the cosmos: supernova explosions, colliding stars, the births of black holes. On the other side, radio waves stretch across enormous distances, carrying signals from galaxies billions of light years away. The universe is humming with messages at every wavelength, but our eyes catch only the tiniest fraction. Perhaps it helps to think of it like music. Imagine a piano with only a handful of keys in the middle. That is what human vision gives you. A narrow band, enough to play a melody, enough to fill the room with sound. But the piano itself stretches far wider, with deep notes rumbling below and high notes sparkling above. The spectrum of light is just such an instrument, and we are playing only a short tune in the middle. This realization changes not only how we study the world, but how we feel about it. To know that the air around you is full of invisible colors, waves passing through walls, through your body, across the sky, can be both humbling and exhilarating. You are immersed in a sea of light, most of which your eyes cannot catch. The visible is simply the surface of a much deeper ocean. Even within the visible range, there are differences between species. Birds see ultraviolet patterns in feathers that look plain to us. Snakes detect infrared heat from prey in the dark. Butterflies perceive more colors than humans, their world painted with hues beyond our imagination. It is a reminder that our reality is not the reality, but one version among many. What you call red or blue is not absolute. It is filtered by biology, shaped by evolution, tailored to survival, and yet, for all its limitations, our vision has given us a rich world. Sunsets blaze with colour, autumn leaves flame into gold, oceans shift from green to indigo. Our little band of the spectrum is enough to inspire art, poetry, longing. Perhaps that is its own kind of perfection, narrow but filled with meaning. The hidden bands beyond it are not absent, merely waiting, revealed when curiosity builds the right tools. The act of expanding the spectrum is more than science. It is an expansion of perception itself. Each new wavelength we capture adds another thread to the tapestry of reality. We begin to see time differently too, because these hidden lights arrive at different speeds, reveal different layers, carry memories from different epochs. Radio waves from ancient galaxies, X-rays from newborn stars, infrared from warm planets. They're all stories written in light waiting to be read. So the next time you point a remote at the television, or rub sunscreen on your arms, or watch a prism scatter sunlight into a rainbow, pause and remember, this is just the beginning. You live surrounded by a symphony of invisible colours, most of which your eyes will never see directly. But they are there, humming through the air, shaping your world in quiet ways. The rainbow is wider than you think. Think back to a childhood visit to the dentist. Perhaps you sat in the reclining chair, the scent of antiseptic sharp in the air, and the dentist pointed a strange device toward your jaw. A quick click, a flash, invisible to your eyes, and a moment later you were shown the ghostly outlines of your own teeth, the roots, the enamel, even the shadows of cavities, all revealed by light you could not see. That was your first encounter with X-rays, a reminder that light's invisible branches can slip past surfaces our eyes cannot penetrate. Where visible light reflects off enamel and skin, X-rays pass through them, slowed only by denser materials like bone or metal. The result is an image of what usually remains hidden, the skeletal scaffolding beneath your smile. Hospitals are filled with such uses of hidden light. Step into a radiology department, and you find corridors humming with machines designed to see what ordinary sight cannot. A CT scanner whirls around a patient, combining X-rays from many angles into a three-dimensional portrait of the body. MRI machines use radio waves and magnetic fields to coax hydrogen atoms into revealing their positions, constructing images of organs, tissues, and even the delicate pathways of the brain. These technologies may sound intimidating, but they are simply extensions of the same spectrum of light. X-rays, radio waves, magnetic resonance, each as part of the larger orchestra of electromagnetic radiation, each a different note beyond the narrow band our eyes perceive. In the hands of medicine, these hidden notes become diagnostic tools, giving doctors the ability to peer inside the body without cutting it open. Even the security scanners at airports rely on this principle. As you place your bag on the conveyor belt, it slides through a tunnel bathed in X-rays. The screen shows shapes that eyes could never detect: bottles, wires, books stacked within. The traveller hurries onward, but the machine has already read a story written in hidden light. There is something quietly astonishing about this, that the universe is constantly painting pictures we cannot see, and with the right tools we can finally witness them. It makes you wonder what else might lie hidden, waiting to be revealed by wavelengths we have not yet learned to harness. Everyday life is already touched by these unseen lights in gentler ways. Infrared sensors measure the warmth of your forehead at a clinic, detecting fevers without contact. Pulse oximeters on your finger use red and infrared light to read the oxygen in your blood. Even the simple barcode scanners at grocery stores are beams of invisible light, reading patterns faster than any human eye. When you consider how pervasive these technologies have become, it is easy to forget how magical they really are. 100 years ago, the thought of looking inside the human body without surgery would have seemed fantastical. Today, we take it for granted. We step casually into machines that hum and glow, letting invisible light wash over us, trusting it to reveal truths our senses cannot. There is a deeper comfort in this as well. These hidden wavelengths are not alien to us. They surround us constantly, part of the same ocean of light in which we live. What medicine does is not conjure something new, but teach us how to listen more carefully. It is as if the universe is always whispering, and we have finally learned how to hear. Philosophically, this raises a quiet question. If so much of reality is invisible to our eyes, how much of our experience is shaped not by what exists, but by what we can perceive? For thousands of years, people lived without knowledge of X-rays or radio waves. Their world felt complete, painted in the colours of the rainbow. And yet, those hidden lights were always there, carrying their silent stories. The difference was not in reality itself, but in our ability to see it. It suggests that our sense of time and self is also filtered, dependent on the tools our bodies provide. Perhaps we live in a much larger theatre of existence than we realise, perceiving only the stage lit by visible light while countless other performances go on in the dark. Science, in this view, is less about discovery and more about illumination, finding the lamps that allow us to glimpse the hidden acts. So the next time you sit in a dentist's chair, or place your bag on an airport scanner, or glance at the glowing numbers of a pulse oximeter, pause for a moment. Remember that what you are witnessing is not just a machine, but a conversation with invisible light. You're peering into hidden dimensions of reality, guided by waves that have always been there, waiting patiently for us to notice. The human eye may be limited, but curiosity is not. And with each new tool, we expand our spectrum, learning that reality is always larger, richer, and more intricate than what we thought. Imagine standing in a familiar room. By daylight, every detail is clear. The colour of the curtains, the grain of the wooden floor, the glint of glass on a shelf. Now picture the same room by candlelight. The colours shift, shadows pool in the corners, details blur into softness. The room hasn't changed, but the way you see it has. Each kind of light paints reality differently. Astronomy works in just the same way. For centuries, humans looked at the night sky only through the narrow window of visible light. Telescopes extended our reach, but the view was still bound by our eyes. Then, slowly, we learned to listen to the universe in other wavelengths, and the cosmos transformed. Take radio waves. Invisible, long and gentle compared to visible light, they slip easily through dust and gas that block ordinary starlight. With radio telescopes, astronomers discovered structures hidden behind veils, vast clouds of hydrogen gas, the quiet skeleton of galaxies, even the faint whisper of the Big Bang itself, still echoing after nearly 14 billion years. To look at the sky in radio is to hear the universe hum with ancient memory. Shift to infrared, and another world appears. Stars in their infancy, wrapped in clouds of dust, glow in infrared heat. Entire nurseries of stars, invisible in visible light, bloom into view. The James Webb Space Telescope has given us astonishing portraits of these nurseries, revealing delicate structures that look like cosmic cliffs or deep oceans of light. Each detail was there all along, hidden only because we were looking with the wrong eyes. Move higher in energy, and ultraviolet light shows us the fierce brilliance of young, hot stars, blazing with radiation that shapes entire galaxies. X-rays reveal violent dramas, black holes devouring matter, neutron stars colliding, gas heated to millions of degrees in the aftermath of explosions. Gamma rays, the highest energy light of all, mark the universe's most cataclysmic events, bursts from dying stars, flashes from matter torn apart at unimaginable speeds. The universe is like a symphony, and each wavelength is a different instrument. Visible light might be the violins, delicate and clear. Radio waves are the bass, deep and resonant. Infrared adds warmth. Ultraviolet sharpens the notes. X-rays crash like cymbals, and gamma rays strike like a drumbeat at the edge of hearing. No single instrument tells the whole story. Only by listening to all of them together do we hear the full music of the cosmos. Everyday life offers analogies. Think of photographs taken under different filters. A face under warm lamplight looks golden, under fluorescent bulbs cooler and paler, under black light strange details leap out, threads, ink, even invisible stains glowing purple. The face is the same, but the light transforms it. Our universe, too, changes its character with each new eye we open. Consider the Hubble Space Telescope, which for decades gave us breathtaking images in visible and ultraviolet light. Its pictures of galaxies and nebulae became icons, filling textbooks and screensavers, shaping how we imagine the cosmos. Then came the James Webb Telescope, shifting deeper into infrared. Suddenly, the same regions look transformed. Stars piercing through dust, galaxies stretching farther than we had ever seen. The two telescopes are not in conflict. They are partners, like two artists sketching the same subject with different colours. This expansion of sight does more than show us beauty. It changes how we understand time itself. Radio waves carry messages from the early universe, faint but enduring. Infrared light reveals stars just being born. X-rays and gamma rays mark endings, the deaths of stars and the violence of collisions. To look at the cosmos in multiple wavelengths is to see not just different places but different eras. It is as though light in its various forms has been keeping a diary, and we are only now learning how to read all the entries. Even at a smaller scale, this lesson holds. Your own living room looks different at noon, at dusk, in candlelight, in moonlight. Each light source brings out new textures, new shadows, new moods. The universe is no different. Its true face is not one view but many, a layered portrait painted across the spectrum. And perhaps there is something tender in this idea, that reality is too vast to be seen all at once. It reveals itself in fragments, in different voices, each requiring us to build new tools and stretch our imagination. What we call seeing is really a collaboration between curiosity and light. So the next time you see a picture from Hubble or James Webb, pause and remember, you're not looking at a single universe but at one facet of it, one voice in the cosmic orchestra. Somewhere else, in radio or X-ray or gamma ray, the same patch of sky is singing a different song, and together, those songs weave the full symphony of creation. If you've ever pressed your eye against the keyhole of a door, you know the strange feeling of seeing only a sliver of what lies beyond. You catch a fragment of a room, a chair, part of a window, a corner of a rug, but not the whole. Your mind tries to imagine the rest, filling in the gaps, but you can never be sure. Human vision is much the same. Our eyes, wonderful as they are, give us only a sliver of the light that exists. We live most of our lives looking through a cosmic keyhole. The electromagnetic spectrum stretches vast and continuous, from radio waves as long as skyscrapers to gamma rays smaller than atoms. Our visible range, read through violet, is like a single page torn from a book thousands of pages long. And yet we call this fragment reality. We build our art, our language, our sense of beauty upon it. The scarlet of autumn leaves, the deep blue of twilight, the golden glow of firelight. All of it is precious, but also partial. Science has slowly widened the keyhole, giving us new eyes to glimpse what was always there. Each wavelength we uncover expands our sense of the universe. Radio waves reveal structures invisible in starlight. Infrared shows nurseries of stars hidden in cosmic dust. X-rays unveil the violent lives of black holes and colliding galaxies. Together they remind us that the world is larger, stranger, more layered than our senses suggest. But it is not only about astronomy. Even here on Earth, this widening changes how we understand ourselves. Infrared cameras show the warmth of our bodies glowing in the dark. Ultraviolet images reveal the hidden signatures on flowers, guiding bees like runway lights. X-rays expose the skeleton beneath our skin. Each wavelength is a translator, turning what was invisible into something we can hold, measure, and recognize. Perhaps it helps to think of it like listening through a wall. At first, you catch only muffled sounds, a vague sense of voices. Then you press your ear closer, and the words sharpen. Finally, you find a crack and peek through, and suddenly you see the whole scene. The conversation was always happening. You were simply outside it. Light works in the same way. Reality hums across all wavelengths, but only when we learn to listen with the right tools do we become part of the full conversation. This realization changes how we think of time as well. Different wavelengths carry different stories. Radio waves preserve whispers from the early universe, stretched by billions of years of expansion. Infrared reveals the warm glow of stars still forming, showing the beginning of new stories. X-rays and gamma rays capture endings, the violent deaths of stars, the brief flashes of cosmic catastrophe. To open new eyes is not just to see space differently, but to see time differently. Each wavelength is a page from another chapter, layered over the others. It makes you wonder what other layers might exist that we have not yet uncovered. Just as people once lived without knowledge of X-rays or radio waves, might there be other forms of reality still hidden from us, waiting for instruments we have yet to invent? It is a humbling thought that our current vision, even with telescopes and sensors, may still be as limited as candlelight compared to the brilliance of a star. And yet, within this limitation lies beauty. Our narrow slice of vision is enough to give us sunsets that linger in memory, rainbows that arch across the sky, the sparkle of frost under morning light. We may not see the whole spectrum, but the part we do see is rich enough to fill our lives with wonder. The unseen does not diminish the seen. Instead, it deepens it, reminding us that every glimmer of colour is just one note in a vast, unseen symphony. Think of the stars as an orchestra spread across the cosmos. To human eyes, we hear only the violins, delicate and bright. But with radio, we add the bass notes. With infrared, the warmth of cellos. With X-rays, the brassy force of trumpets. Each new wavelength is another instrument joining the song. The music was always playing. We are simply learning to hear more of it. So, when you look at the night sky, imagine that you are peering through a narrow window. The stars you see are real, but they are only one version of themselves, painted in visible light. In other bands, they blaze differently, perhaps brighter, perhaps dimmer, perhaps revealing secrets invisible to your eyes. The universe is not a single image, but a gallery, each wavelength a new portrait. And perhaps the most profound lesson is this: reality is always larger than our perception. We live inside a version of the world shaped by our biology, edited by our senses, and filtered by the limits of light. But through curiosity, we can push those limits. Each new discovery is like widening the keyhole, letting in more of the room, more of the story. The more we see, the more we realize how much remains unseen. That is the paradox of knowledge. Every new window opens onto more mystery. But it is a gentle paradox, one that keeps wonder alive. To live in a larger reality is not to erase what we already know, but to enrich it, to see it as part of something greater. So the next time you hold a prism, or look at a rainbow after rain, pause and remember. These colours are not the whole story. They are just the beginning. Beyond them stretches a spectrum as vast as imagination, a universe waiting patiently for us to widen our gaze. Imagine waking before dawn, when the sky is still a deep shade of grey and the world feels suspended in silence. A street lamp outside throws its pale glow across the curtains, tricking your eyes into thinking it might already be morning. Your body stirs uncertainly. Should you rise or keep sleeping? This small confusion hints at a deeper truth. Your sense of time is not just in your mind or on your watch. It lives in your body, tuned carefully to the rhythm of light. Inside each of us, hidden within our cells, are tiny clocks, molecular oscillators ticking away, guiding when we wake, when we feel hungry, when our energy rises and falls. Together they form what scientists call the circadian rhythm, a cycle roughly 24 hours long, synchronized by the rising and setting of the sun. The word circadian comes from Latin roots meaning about a day, and for most of our history, sunlight was the metronome that set the beat. You've felt this rhythm countless times. Wake up with the dawn and you feel alert, renewed. Stay awake long after midnight and your body protests with heavy eyes and slow thoughts. Travel across time zones and jet lag makes you stumble through days, your inner clock still set to the light of the place you left behind. These are reminders that you are not separate from the cycles of light and dark. You are woven into them. The brain has a master clock, a cluster of neurons in the hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This tiny region, smaller than a grain of rice, receives direct signals from the eyes. When light enters in the morning, it tells this clock to reset, anchoring you to the day. Hormones begin to shift. Cortisol rises to wake you. Melatonin fades, banishing sleepiness. As the day unfolds, your body follows the tempo set by light, like dancers moving to music they cannot hear but always feel. In the absence of light, however, the rhythm begins to drift. Experiments in caves and windowless bunkers have shown that people cut off from daylight slip into strange cycles, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter than 24 hours. Without the sun's anchor, the inner clock wanders. Days blur, sleep arrives unpredictably, and the sense of time itself begins to dissolve. Light is more than brightness. It is the tether that keeps your body in step with the turning of the earth. Modern life complicates this dance. Artificial light floods our evenings. Lamps, screens, glowing signs. These lights extend the day, pushing back darkness, giving us more hours to work, to play, to stay awake long past when our ancestors would have slept. But this comes at a cost. Blue light from phones and tablets can suppress melatonin, making it harder to drift off. Late nights staring at screens can confuse the body's rhythm, leaving us restless even when the clock says it's bedtime. You've probably felt this too. That peculiar heaviness after scrolling late into the night, the sluggishness that lingers the next morning. It is not just fatigue, but a kind of misalignment, your body's inner rhythm out of step with the cycle of light. Some researchers call this social jet lag, the gap between biological time and the demands of modern schedules. Seasonal changes also remind us of light's power. In winter, when days shorten and evenings arrive too quickly, many people feel their mood dim along with the sun. This is known as seasonal affective disorder, a quiet sadness rooted in light itself. Special lamps that mimic daylight can help, not by magic, but by nudging the body's inner clock back toward balance. Even plants and animals follow these patterns. Flowers open and close with the sun. Birds stir at dawn's first glimmer. Some animals migrate or hibernate based on the changing length of days. In this sense, light and time are not only human concerns, they are the rhythm of life itself written into the behaviour of countless species. Think of how comforting it is to wake to sunlight streaming through a window, the warmth on your face, the brightness filling the room. It is a message older than language. It is time to begin again. Or think of the quiet peace of twilight when the sky dims and the first stars appear. That fading light is a signal too, telling your body it is time to slow down, to prepare for rest. In a way, our days are shaped less by the clocks on our walls than by the cycle of light and dark outside. Even the invention of mechanical clocks was an attempt to mimic the sky, to capture in gears and hands what the sun and stars had already given us. Our watches may beep and buzz, but the deepest clock of all is the one written in our biology, tuned each morning by the rising sun. So the next time you sip coffee on a winter morning, or struggle to stay awake after a late night with glowing screens, remember that you are not simply tired or alert. You're responding to the whispers of light, to signals etched into your cells by millions of years of evolution. You're part of a grand choreography, a dance that begins anew each dawn and rests each dusk. Light is not just something you see, it is the silent conductor of your body's time, guiding you gently, second by second, through the symphony of each day. Think of waiting at a traffic light on a hot summer day. The sun presses down, the air shimmers with heat, and the red light seems to last forever. Now imagine the same red light at night, glowing against a quiet street. The seconds feel shorter, easier to endure. The difference is not in the clock, the intervals are identical, but in how your mind perceives them. Brightness itself changes the tempo of your inner time. Psychologists have studied this curious effect. When people are shown bright flashes of light, they tend to report that the intervals feel longer than when the flashes are dim. The brighter the light, the more it seems to stretch the moment. It is as if illumination itself pulls time taut, turning seconds into threads that feel more extended. The science behind this is still debated, but one idea is that brightness excites the brain, filling perception with more activity, more information, making the moment feel denser. A dim interval slips by lightly, a bright one weighs down, stretching as it passes. You can sense this in daily life. Step into a brightly lit room after hours in darkness, and the first few minutes feel expansive, almost overwhelming. Walk into a dim cafe, lit by candles, and time seems to soften, melting into the shadows. It is not only mood that changes, it is your perception of duration itself. This bending of subjective time has practical echoes. Think of concerts, where lighting is used to heighten the experience. Spotlights burst into brilliance during climactic moments, stretching them in memory. Dim blue lights wash over the audience between songs, compressing time as you wait for the next note. Theatre directors too know that the way a stage is lit can alter how long a scene feels, even if its length never changes. There is a gentle poetry in this, light as a sculptor of experience, carving our sense of time into longer or shorter shapes. Imagine baking bread. Under the bright kitchen light, the minutes waiting for dough to rise feel slow, elongated. But under softer evening light, those same minutes seem to vanish as you linger with a book or a cup of tea. The yeast is not fooled, but you are. Your sense of when is woven with brightness as much as with ticking clocks. Experiments confirm that this is not limited to vision alone. Loud, bright stimuli, whether flashes of light or bursts of sound, expand subjective time. Gentle, dim stimuli contract it. Our brains appear to measure duration not with an internal stopwatch, but with activity. The more stimulation, the longer the moment feels. It's as though your mind is not counting seconds but gathering impressions, and the fuller the basket, the heavier and longer the memory of that moment becomes. This explains why moments of fear or excitement often feel stretched. A sudden bright flash, a startling sound, a surge of adrenaline, all amplify the brain's activity, filling the present with detail. People who experience accidents often describe them in slow motion. In truth, the event unfolds at normal speed, but the heightened flood of sensory information stretches the memory, making it feel longer. Brightness is one part of that flood, expanding time like an elastic band. And yet, the opposite is just as striking. In dim, low-stimulus environments, time contracts. A candlelit dinner seems to slip away too quickly. A quiet evening walk under starlight vanishes before you know it. These settings are not empty. They are rich in mood. but they generate fewer sharp signals for the brain to count. The minutes gather lightly, and the moment feels short. Philosophically, this suggests that our sense of time is not only about clocks or physics, but about how much the world gives us to process. Light, by brightening or dimming our surroundings, alters the density of our experience. We live time not just as a sequence of seconds, but as a landscape of impressions, stretched or compressed by the light that falls upon us. Consider a library, lit softly by shaded lamps. Hours can vanish there, pages turning quietly, each moment slipping away unnoticed. Then step outside into the bright afternoon sun, and suddenly time feels slower, heavier, more demanding. The clocks have not changed, but your perception has shifted with the brightness, like an inner sundial adjusting to the sky. This may be why so many traditions associate dim light with reflection and intimacy. Candlelit rituals, twilight prayers, evenings by the fireplace, all create a sense of timelessness, where hours feel compressed into moments. Bright light, by contrast, often belongs to urgency. Factories, offices, classrooms, all bathed in illumination that stretches perception, making minutes feel long and tasks heavy. So the next time you find yourself impatient at a traffic light on a blazing afternoon, remember, it isn't only your mood that stretches the wait. It is the brightness itself, bending your perception of time. And when you linger by candlelight or under the glow of a street lamp, losing hours in what feels like minutes, remember too. The dimness is compressing your inner clock, gifting you a fleeting taste of timelessness. Brightness is not just illumination. It is a sculptor of your experience of time, a quiet force shaping whether moments feel endless or ephemeral. In this way, light does not simply reveal the world, it molds the very rhythm of how you live it. Picture yourself in a room lit by an old fluorescent bulb. It hums faintly overhead, and every so often it flickers, not enough to plunge you into darkness, but enough to remind you of its imperfection. To your eyes, the light seems steady most of the time, yet in truth, it is pulsing dozens of times per second. Your brain stitches the flickers together into a smooth glow, editing reality in real time so that you can live comfortably within it. This quiet editing reveals something profound. Your perception of time is not fixed. It can be bent, compressed, or stretched by the rhythm of light itself. Psychologists have long known that flickering lights can distort our sense of duration. When a light pulses rapidly, intervals seem longer or shorter depending on the frequency. In experiments, people asked to judge the length of time between flashes often misestimate, fooled by the pace of the flicker. You may have felt this in subtler ways. Think of sitting in a nightclub or at a concert under strobe lights. The world turns into a sequence of frozen moments. Dancers caught mid-leap, hair suspended in mid-air, every gesture broken into still frames. Time itself feels jagged, not flowing smoothly, but chopped into slices. The strobe does not change reality. It changes the way light delivers it, forcing your brain to see in frames rather than motion. Another common illusion comes from ceiling fans. Under certain lighting conditions, especially with flicker from artificial bulbs, the blades seem to slow down, reverse, or hover in place. Your brain misjudges the rhythm of the flicker against the motion, creating a mismatch. The fan has not stopped, but your perception of time has faltered, turned playful, producing a ghost of motion that isn't really there. These examples may sound like tricks, but they reveal the delicate balance between light and time in your experience. Your eyes and brain evolved to smooth over discontinuities, to make the world coherent. Flickers and strobes exploit this smoothing, tugging at the threads of perception until time itself feels altered. Consider film projectors, which are built upon this principle. Movies are not continuous motion, but a rapid sequence of still images, each frame shown for a fraction of a second. The projector's light flickers faster than you can consciously notice, and your brain transforms it into seamless movement. If the projector slowed too much, you would see the gaps, the illusion would break, and the magic of cinema would dissolve into flickers. Time in film exists only because your brain agrees to weave the flashes into continuity. Even outside theatres, light flicker shapes how we live. Modern screens refresh dozens or hundreds of times per second. Though invisible to most, this flicker can tire the eyes, altering the way we sense time passing during long hours of work or play. Some people describe losing track of hours in front of a computer as though the constant pulse of light lulls their sense of duration. The clock keeps its count, but perception drifts. At a deeper level, these illusions remind us that time is never something we feel directly. We infer it from changes, the flicker of light, the motion of objects, the rhythm of sound. When those changes are manipulated, our sense of time shifts with them. Brightness stretches time, flicker chops it into pieces, smooth light compresses it. The seconds remain the same, but our experience does not. This raises an intriguing thought. If our perception of time can be altered so easily by the simple rhythm of light, how much of what we call reality is really a construction of the brain? Perhaps what we experience as a steady present is just one version of events, stitched together by neural editing, polished until it feels natural. The raw data, the flickers, the delays, the mismatches are smoothed away, leaving us with the illusion of continuity. And yet, there is something comforting in that. Your brain is not deceiving you maliciously. It is protecting you, creating a world that feels coherent and livable. Without this smoothing, reality might feel too fragmented, too chaotic, like living under a strobe where nothing quite connects. Instead, you're granted a version of time that flows, like a river without interruption. Still, every so often, the curtain lifts and you glimpse the stitching. A flickering bulb, a fan blade that seems to hover, a film projector slowed down. These moments remind you of the fragility of perception, the way light choreographs your experience of time. They are not failures but revelations, brief windows into how reality is built. Perhaps that is why such illusions often feel mesmerizing rather than unsettling. You can sit for minutes watching a fan appear to reverse direction, captivated by the strangeness. You can lose yourself in the slow-motion world of a strobe-lit dance floor, laughing at how the simplest movement becomes surreal. For a moment, time loosens its grip, and you glimpse how flexible it truly is. So the next time a light flickers above you, pause instead of frowning. Notice how your perception shifts, how seconds feel different under that unsteady glow. Remember that you are not seeing the world as it is, but as your brain chooses to present it, stitched and polished into coherence. Light does not only reveal the world, it edits it, crafting the rhythm of your experience moment by moment. And within those edits lies a quiet truth. Time itself may be steady, but your perception of it is always in motion, flickering, flowing, bending with the light. Imagine holding a strand of spider silk between your fingers. It is so fine, so delicate, that you can hardly see it against the air. Yet it is strong enough to stretch and shimmer, carrying a quiet weight of possibility. In the laboratories of today, scientists are working with threads even finer than this, threads of light itself. Photons, the smallest particles of illumination, are being shaped and guided with exquisite care, not only to reveal reality but to measure and even manipulate time. One of the most remarkable tools born of this effort is the optical clock. Traditional clocks, even atomic clocks, rely on the oscillations of atoms or electromagnetic fields. But optical clocks use light, lasers tuned to precise frequencies, to measure time with breathtaking accuracy. These clocks are so stable that they would lose or gain less than a second over the age of the universe. Imagine a metronome so perfect that it could keep the same beat for billions of years without faltering. What does such precision mean for us? Already it sharpens the technology we rely on daily. The GPS in your phone depends on signals from satellites carrying atomic clocks. If those clocks drift, even slightly, your position would wander. With optical clocks, the margin shrinks further, allowing navigation systems more accurate than ever before. In the future, such precision could guide spacecraft across the solar system, keep networks synchronized across continents, and even allow us to map Earth's shifting crust by noticing tiny differences in how time flows at different altitudes. But light is not only measuring time, it is also carrying our messages across it. Fiber optic cables, stretched under oceans and across continents, pulse with light beams carrying voices, images, and ideas. When you send a message to a friend, when you stream music or join a call, you are riding on photons, their journeys measured in fractions of a second. In this way, light becomes not only the ruler of time, but the messenger of our times, weaving our personal stories into the global fabric. At the cutting edge, scientists are exploring even stranger uses. Quantum communication, for example, uses photons in delicate states that can be entangled, meaning they share a link no matter how far apart they are. These fragile connections could one day create networks where information is transferred with absolute security, impossible to eavesdrop on. It is as if light itself were whispering secrets that only the intended listener could hear. And then there are experiments in slowing light down. In special conditions within ultra-cold gases or engineered materials, scientists have made beams of light crawl at walking speed, or even pause entirely before releasing them again. To imagine light, the fastest thing in the universe, brought to a standstill is to glimpse how flexible our understanding of time and communication might become. If light can be slowed, stored, or manipulated in this way, perhaps new ways of shaping memory and perception await us. You don't have to travel to a laboratory to feel this future, though. Each time your phone corrects its clock by listening to signals from satellites, each time a fiber optic cable brings you a live broadcast from the other side of the world, you're living in the age of light as a tool for time. The technology is quiet, almost invisible, but its presence is constant. Consider how different life feels now compared to a century ago. Messages once took days to cross oceans. Now they arrive in less than a heartbeat, carried by light pulsing through cables. Travellers once navigated by stars, by sextants, by guesswork. Now, a pocket device can locate you within meters thanks to time signals bent and corrected by relativity. The thread of light has woven itself deeply into the tapestry of daily life, whether you notice it or not. And yet, beneath the practical marvels, there is also something philosophical. By using light to measure and control time, we are turning to the very element that shapes our perception of reality. Light is no longer just the messenger. It is becoming the instrument. It is as though we have asked the conductor of the orchestra not only to keep the rhythm but to hold the baton, to guide the entire performance. The future may hold wonders we can scarcely imagine. Communication networks woven of entangled photons, clocks so precise they can sense tiny ripples in space-time, spacecraft navigating the stars with beams of light as their compass. Each innovation will remind us of the same quiet truth. Light is not just what lets us see the world, it is what lets us measure it, connect across it, and, in a sense, hold time itself in our hands. So the next time you watch a fibre optic lamp shimmer with tiny points of colour, or marvel at the accuracy of the map on your phone, pause and remember. These are not small conveniences. They are glimpses of a deeper truth. That light is both ruler and messenger, both boundary and bridge. It does not only show us the world as it is, it carries us into the world as it might become. All throughout this journey, light has been our guide, sometimes a ruler, sometimes a messenger, sometimes a trickster bending our sense of time. We have followed it from traffic lights on city streets to galaxies billions of years away. From the gentle tick of biological clocks to the precise hum of atomic ones. And at every turn we have found the same truth. Our perception of reality is inseparable from the way light delivers it. But what does that mean for us, here in this fragile human moment? Are we defined by light, creatures of photons bound to the tempo of its speed? Or is light only a medium, a language through which we choose to define ourselves? Perhaps the answer is both. Light shapes us in ways we rarely notice. The rising sun nudges us awake. The fading twilight whispers us towards sleep. Our bodies, our moods, our rhythms, all attuned to its daily cycle. Light carries the images of those we love, the voices of friends far away, the warmth of memories we treasure. Without it, we would stumble not only in darkness, but in timelessness, unable to find the rhythm of our days, and yet we also shape light. We bend it through lenses, scatter it in prisms, stretch it through fibre optic cables. We paint with it in photographs and stage performances with its glow. We have learned to measure time with its oscillations, to slow it down in laboratories, to use it as the threads of global communication. Light may set the cosmic tempo, but we are the dancers who choose the steps. There is a gentleness in realizing that reality is always filtered. What you call now is already the past. What you see is already delayed. What you remember is stitched together by the brain, edited and polished so that life feels seamless. Light does not hand you the raw truth. It hands you a version of it, softened by distance, curved by gravity, stretched by motion. And yet that version is the only one you need. It is coherent, it is rich, it is real enough to live in. This fragility gives meaning to the moments you hold. The flicker of a candle, the smile of a friend, the shimmer of raindrops on a window, all of them are fleeting, already gone by the time you perceive them. But in that very transience lies their beauty. You do not need eternity to find meaning. You need only the brief gift of light, carrying a moment into your awareness. Think of how often we describe our experiences in terms of light. A bright day, a dark night, the glow of hope, the shadow of doubt. Even our metaphors bend toward illumination. Light is how we make sense of time, and time is how we make sense of change. Together they give us not only the structure of physics, but the language of feeling. So perhaps the universe does not need to choose whether light defines us or we define it. The truth may be that we are companions, walking together through the fabric of space-time. Light sets the boundaries, its speed, its constancy, its delays. But within those boundaries, we weave meaning. We turn the rhythm into music, the echoes into stories, the delays into connection. And in the end, perhaps that is enough. To know that reality is not absolute but relational, not fixed but flowing. To accept that we will never see everything, never hold the true present, but always experience a version shaped by light. Far from diminishing life, this makes it more precious. Every moment is unique, every perception a miracle of timing. As we reach the end of this journey, imagine yourself once more by the river of time. Light glimmers on the surface, ripples carrying fragments of past and future. You cannot hold the river still, but you can watch it flow, marveling at how each reflection is both fleeting and eternal. You're part of that river, and the river is part of you. And so, we've reached the end of tonight's exploration. Whether your eyes are still open or you're already floating somewhere between waking and dreaming, thank you for being part of this little journey. If you'd like to join me again for more gentle wanderings, you're always welcome to subscribe or share this with someone who could use a peaceful pause. Time has a way of slipping through our fingers, but here, in this quiet moment, it's just you and the soft hush of rest. Sleep peacefully wherever and whenever you may be.